Well, we did just hear from DFL Party Chair Ken Martin about the rules governing Minnesota's first presidential primary in decades. Early voting is underway, and as we've been explaining, you do have to tell election officials, whether you vote absentee or in person, which party primary you're voting in. That information gets passed to all four major parties. Those major parties include the DFL, the GOP, as well as the two marijuana parties. While the DFL party chair wants a law limiting how the information can be used, the GOP party chair doesn't think that is needed, even saying that it could suppress voter turnout. GOP party chair Jennifer Carnahan joins me now. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
All right. This information, why not have a law that would put limits on what you can do with it and what all the other parties can do with it?
Well, here's the interesting thing, and I think Chair Martin of the DFL left this out when he was on your earlier segment. When the legislation was originally passed in 2016, there were no restrictions around data privacy, and that was passed in a bipartisan manner and signed into law by Governor Mark Dayton. Well, last year in 2019, legislation was passed. Ken and I worked together on this with the state legislature and the Secretary of State, Steve Simon, to severely restrict and limit data access following the primary, because previously anybody could get it. Anybody in the general public, the media could have access, and that law restricted it to just major political party units.
But there's no restriction on what you can do it. So right now, you're going to get the information on whoever voted. You're going to get all the DFL information. Everybody who voted in the Democratic primary. Obviously, there were people who are going to vote in the Republican primary, even though it's just President Trump and the write-in. What are you going to do with that information?
Well, actually, there are restrictions in place on our side at the Republican Party of Minnesota. We have protocols, processes, and legal contracts that restrict our use of the primary data to just our party for party building, grassroots development, and towards the election in 2020. So we will not share this data. We will not sell it. And actually, Esme, another important note, there are over 40 states in the country, so 40 other states in our nation, where primary data is given to major political party units as a part of their voter file. And none of those states that I'm aware of have ever been uncompliant or have done anything controversial with that data.
And to a certain extent, I mean, this does replace the caucus system, which couldn't have been more open. You obviously had to declare which party you were in.
Absolutely. That's exactly it. It's just we've transitioned from a caucus to a primary, and the general intent is to try to elect delegates to our national conventions in 2020. And I have said this before. I think that the fact that the Democrats led by Ken Martin and Steve Simon completely trying to change this when the primaries already started and to continue to restrict data, it really is a preemptive move to try to hinder our abilities to deliver the state's electoral votes to President Trump on November 3rd.
And obviously you are a big supporter of the president's. Do you feel in any way this impeachment trial, the focus on impeachment, which it looks like he's going to be acquitted by all accounts in the Senate, is that hurting him? I mean, do you think that's going to hurt him in terms of the campaign? Or, like some Republicans are saying, it actually is helping him and galvanizing the base?
Oh, we absolutely believe it's helping him, because as have we seen in 3 days of testimony, you had the Republican side come out, his attorneys in 2 hours just completely dismantle everything. You know, these claims are baseless. They have not provided any evidence that shows impeachable offenses, and the general public is tired of it. This has been going on since the day the president took office. It's mobilizing his base. It's actually flipping people that maybe didn't vote for the president last time, but they're so tired of these games by the Democrats because they just want to see people do the right thing for our country.
The DFL party chair just acknowledged it's a huge advantage for President Trump to have obviously the nomination locked up, whereas the fighting continues. It looks like it's going to continue for quite a while on the Democratic side. How many resources, what kind of effort is being put into Minnesota and this whole region in general?
We're very excited about this. There are enormous resources being invested in Minnesota, and this started last year, you know, not just a year out, before.
We did see that, yes.
A year out. In 2016, I think the president's campaign had one staffer in Minnesota. They pulled that staffer to go to Colorado, you know, in the fall. Well, we are looking at, you know, upwards of 100 people, you know, full-time paid people on the ground, thousands of volunteers on top of that.
And when will they be on the ground?
They're already on the ground.
They're already here, just for Minnesota?
Just for Minnesota. We already have people covering the entire state. We're already out there making voter contact, whether it's phone calls, registering people to vote, knocking on their doors, going out and holding what we call MAGA meetups, bringing more people into the infrastructure, and that's how we're going to deliver the state to the president in 2020.
All right. Well, Jennifer Carnahan, thank you so much for joining us. We
Thank
really
you.
appreciate it.